Oh, awesome, awesome. So at least this presentation, I get to see you. How's everyone doing? I wish I was there with you. My name is Omowale Adewale, Wale for short. And today I'm going to discuss fight training, just give people kind of an idea of how do fighters um, develop power, kind of consolidate power in smaller bodies. How does a fighter, maybe flyweight, consolidate so much power, bantam weight? I fight welterweight. I also do uh, middleweight as well. And it depends on boxing, kickboxing, or MMA. Okay, so and I'll kind of start with my first slide. Uh, is my first slide on? My first slide in?
First slide is the pictures of you with the boxing
Oh,
gloves, the beans, and
oh, okay.
press ups.
All right, awesome. Okay, just get a start. Okay, so first in beginning, we'll talk about in terms of what I eat and how do I develop, grab our mindset, and then going forward, we're taking a vegan appetite and lifestyle, and combining that with the foods that I eat, and basically maximizing our power. Right here, I'm in my gym today, so you can kind of see. This is where I train. Uh, Give people a look, okay? And I train fighters, and I also am trained myself. First, beginning, next slide.
Yep. The next slide.
Okay. Um, so, so grains are very important. So some of the key grains that I tend to use are oats. Um, I use rolled oats. I'll go ahead and use granola for my cereal. And I make my oat flour. I was discussing in the last presentation and how to actually make that pancakes. How many people are actually pancake eaters? Raise your hands. All right, so big pancake eaters. All right, so you're on your way to becoming a fighter. All right, or bodybuilder. So a lot of people tend to eat a lot of pancakes. Developing power to find out that it's more than just carbs. Okay, so I eat my pancakes in the morning. Um, like I said, with oats, usually oats, rolled oats. I'll use a coffee grinder to blend them in and to make my own flour. Anybody make their own flour? It's real simple and easy. All you have to do is just pulverize it inside of a coffee grinder, or you could also get a NutriBullet or whatever may have you in terms of a blender, serrated edges that would break it down. Uh, so in terms of my pancakes, I might have French toast, but also bananas. I put bananas, strawberries, berries. Uh, I generally want to put lots of fruits for my breakfast. I want to have lots of fruits. Also want to have greens as well. Water, in addition. Uh, Other grains that I might have is barley as well. Anybody eat barley? Any? Okay. Any millet eaters as well? So I might have a, a bowl of a cereal that has a bunch of different grains, and this is an excellent way to kind of start me off in the day, as long as I have some bananas as well. Smoothie and will be in addition to that. So next slide. Okay.
Yep, black-eyed beans.
Okay, all right. So the legumes, all right, black-eyed beans. So in addition, so my breakfast has to be pretty large. I want to. This is around training time. Around training time, I want to eat heavily. Um, Maybe a month and a half to 2 months before training. As training comes to a close, I'll start to eat less. But at this particular point, I'm trying to build up a lot of protein. Um, Anyone have any other beans that they eat besides the ones that they can see on the slide? I can, y'all can yell some of them out. My main beans would be. I'm not sure if you can. Can everyone hear me? Oh, nice. Okay, good. So my main beans would be black-eyed peas, azuki beans. Those are my main beans. And lentils in terms of legumes, and green peas. And if you do any smoothies, if you were in the last presentation, you might have gathered that I don't do any protein shakes. I don't use protein powders or supplements. Um, so I use everything is all food. So how would I get a lot of this food in terms of into my uh, uh, get enough caloric intake on a daily basis? Basically, I blend up a lot of green peas. So a lot of the protein that we actually get from our stores, shops, different nutritional brands, in terms of supplements or protein shakes. You know, they have green peas. They use green peas. They utilize soybeans. So what you can do is actually, take them and blend them into powder. So make your own protein shakes. And so this is what I tend to do with green peas. Uh, Next slide. So we have our greens. Um, and before I go any further, anyone, how many non-vegans do we have? Okay, we have some people who are not vegan. All right. Okay. So anyone who doesn't eat greens, who doesn't eat greens? Everyone eats greens. Great. All right. So greens are the most important thing in my diet, in my lifestyle, being vegan. Whether I was vegan or a vegan or not, I was vegetarian for about 20 years before I became vegan. So I'm only actually vegan for the last 3 years, but uh, I haven't eaten any meat in almost 24 years. Basically, I don't know what it tastes like, but I do know what greens taste like, and I tend to eat spinach and collard greens often. I like to have my greens in the morning and breakfast, which might be a little different from a lot of people. But I make sure I have it it's in my daily intake on a regular basis. So I want to have it nice and early. And the reason I have my greens in is to get away from carcinogens, to take the metals out of my system. So it's essentially, if I'm just waking up, I also have it at dinner as well. But if I'm just waking up, I want to make sure I have greens in my system. That's my defense. This is part of my defense. But greens, you'll find, is also your protein. It's your ammunition as well, as it has is stock full of protein. So always get your greens in, whether it be kale or whatever have you. Next slide, please. Okay. And so nuts and seeds, very important in terms of snacking. I might have a lot of different mixes of trail mix. Uh, my nuts and seeds are very important in developing and just in developing or in keeping my appetite, a healthy appetite is what you usually have in a fight game. And so that's always been very important to me. People tend to ask me, how can I, maintain a vegan lifestyle and still get enough food? Is on a regular basis. And I tell them, nuts, seeds, might have dried fruits as well. So it's always been very important to me as well. And in addition to eating the nuts and seeds by themselves, you can also make your own meals. Anybody make their own meals using nuts in terms of nut butters? Okay. Also, the different milks as well. Any other things that you make utilizing nuts? Okay. Okay. Oh, the cheesecake. I have some recipes on my website utilizing nuts as well. Okay. Next slide, please. So bear with me. It's a little new to me. And getting the slides and being on the same page when you're not there. This is the first time actually doing it. So it's a little fun, but it's a little like I'm all over. So so I have so-called alternative meats, right? So I call them so-called. I say they're so-called alternative meats because if you tempeh has been around for a couple millennia, right? And it was it developed in Japan first, and that's longer than hamburgers, and that's longer than a lot of the meats. You never hear really, burgers being an alternative, and so I always thought it was pretty interesting um, about different about them being called alternatives. So uh, I'm going to be interested to hear how people relate to soy or how people understand soy as well. I discuss soy quite a bit in my book, and I might even be a little harsh, but I'm not really being. I'm really being just critic. I'm being really critic of how soybeans are utilized around the world, um, and because just in terms of just in terms of soybeans being a powerful nutrient, being very nutrient dense with a lot of protein, and so that's why it's always an excellent alternative for me. Tempeh, of course, it's fermented cousin, and then you have your different nut meats. I'm not sure if I heard if anyone mentioned that they would make that nut meat essentially, different meaty or protein based foods, fatty foods out of nuts. So and then seitan. Anyone make seitan? So I have awesome. I have in my book recipe for anyone who would like to make seitan. Let me tell you, it's incredibly simple. It does take time. It does take some time. It could take you about 2 hours to 2.5 hours to make seitan, but it's so easy. And it's from gluten. So, but if you are gluten intolerant, maybe you had celiac disease, and of course gluten is not for you. I'm a big believer in that people know their bodies better than even nutritionists. I'm a nutritionist and a trainer, but anyone I'm training, I feel that they would know exactly, how they react to foods and exercises better than I know how to, tell them. Right? Make sense? Um, so I'm going to go on to the next slide and get more into the specifics in terms of so some of the foods and some of the tips I have to offer in terms of juicing. So at this point, I want to ask, is anyone a fighter in the audience? Okay, we have some fighters. You guys should have been in the front. I can't see too well here. So, uh, can, uh, can I hear what disciplines? You can yell them out.
Folk style wrestling.
Awesome.
Boxing.
Nice. Did I hear jujitsu? Okay. Okay. I heard at least two boxers and pro wrestling. Right. Okay.
Fencing.
Say it again.
Fencing.
Oh, fencing. Fencing. Awesome. Nice. Beautiful. Okay. All right. So, in my in, in my health tips, so I'm getting a little bit of a feedback. Maybe it's me. Okay. So, it's most of the fights in the fight game, it's usually weight specific. So it's always been important to kind of get at that particular weight, right? And water is very important in making that happen, and also juicing is very important in making that happen. And I found that veganism helped me kind of get to my weight a lot quicker, whether I was going up or going down. I didn't have toxins to block me. The fat, it wasn't difficult to kind of to break down. And when I wanted to break it down, normally you would go through a detox, right? And so this is the first thing I do once I finish, eating all the foods that I kind of mentioned, right? Over this month or a month and a half period, I want to get down to this two, especially that last week. That 1 or 2 weeks is really critical. Now I start to focus on getting to my weight. I want to say that this is very different than how a lot of other fighters, operate. Not too different. Not a lot of difference. But I will make the difference in saying that fighters generally start trying to break their weight down as soon as they start training. So that is kind of the drastic difference. They start breaking their weight down. A lot of fighters and put on maybe they put on 15 pounds, and so just to get that 15 pounds down at the same time training during that first month, you're still going up and down, trying to build up muscle, trying to maximize enough muscle, but you're also, trying to do as little fat as possible, if that makes sense, right? So you're going up and down. Whereas with me, I generally stay around my same weight. I walk around that same weight because I think once you become a fighter, you have to think in terms of a fight mentality. You can't go off for the season and all of a sudden gain 20, 30 pounds. It's a weight specific sport. You fight at a specific weight. So it becomes very dangerous when you go up in weight and then try to change everything, in like a month or 2 months. And usually within the last 2 days. How many fighters have gone through that where they're trying to bring their weight down, drastically, maybe 5 pounds or more within the last, say 3 days? Show of hands. Okay, so we have one. So this is kind of a common thing. So it's good it's not that many that are doing that. But I do want to say that when I do detox, so you can see the detox. You can write a lot of this stuff down. I tend to write all this stuff down. So, but I still end up actually saying it. So But I will say that a lot of citrus is very important. Also, specific with citrus, I would say is lemons and lime. Also very important are beets. So if I'm going through the recipe for cutting weight and then the recipe for detoxing. So I would detox first. And so when I actually have to cut weight, I want to focus on that last 5 days of the cutting weight. Okay. So that last that last week I want to do the cut weight. But in terms of detoxing, I want to do that twice a month. I want to do that twice a month. So and engage in that throughout that month. So what that looks like is I'm doing it. I'm juicing in the first week, and then I'm juicing in the third week. And so that just keeps, it keeps a lot of toxins out of my body. My body doesn't have to fight to rid of a lot of a lot of gunk, fat, a lot of cholesterol, and a lot of metals in our system. Every single day, our body is really combating carcinogens every single day. Pollution, the foods that we eat, just everywhere we go. Even when we digest certain foods that are supposedly good for us, and also just waters. So we also have to be careful, about that. So that detoxing is going to be early. Is going to be early on. It's going to start early, and the cutting weight is going to cut. Now, the difference with this detox is I don't just juice and and from eating solid food. That's not something that I do because everything has nutrients. So when I'm trying to make sure I maximize enough power, specifically on BCAAs, the branched chain amino acids, that's leucine, valine, and isoleucine. Those are the muscle building amino acids that we need. And in my book, I'm specific. I get a little specific, and I'll give you some of those out as well. The ratio for leucine it should be 2, and then isoleucine and valine should be 1. So it should be 2-1-1. And finding those nutrients could be little tricky unless you know. But good thing is green pea. So and have people seen pea powder in places? Show of hands. Pea powder like proteins. Okay. And the reason why they have green pea as one for two very huge, well, three actually very good reasons. One, it's very high in protein. Two, the ratio is close to 2-1-1. Nothing is exactly 2-1-1, but it's very close to 2-1-1. And also, green peas are pretty, inexpensive, right? So if they're selling them, they're making a lot of money. Now, guess what? You can actually do this yourself. So which I mentioned in my last talk. So it's very important that we kind of have an idea and an understanding of the science of the fight game and exactly how we develop. So in going back into having the different foods and making sure we can kind of maximize on our power. So what I normally would do is, besides green peas and besides soy, which are two, and soy is also 2-1-1. That's why you would normally find it as well as high in protein, and it being something that's in a lot of protein, nutrient dense foods. In addition, you might find amaranth as well, but that being a plant that's pretty light, or people might call it just a herb. You can also you would really have to consume quite a bit of that, but you could also you can use it in a tea. as well. It's supposed to be very high, but it's when I say it's very high compared to everything else, amaranth is really light. It's a light. Watercress is also excellent in terms of 2-on-1. So some of these foods, these nutrients, you might start to see them, later on in the future. Pea protein is pretty new as well. So he will probably take down a lot of the notes on this one. So we'll go to the next slide. All right. So I'm going to be a little short in here, so I'm not so long-winded. I want to, answer some questions. So I'll go a little quicker with this. And so I'm sorry, I skipped the slide on myself. So this is the plant-based plant versus meat diet. We have that up? Okay. I'm going to assume that's up. So can the non-vegans see the difference between plant-based and meat? Okay. And just everyone, right? If you notice the total fat, right? Well, first off, I'm sorry. One, we have a raw piece of meat on the left side, right?
No, you're on
So
5 juicy health tips. The slide is 5 juicy health tips.
5 juicy. No, I'm sorry. We should be on the next slide.
Yay!
We're there? Okay, awesome. All right, we're all on the same page. Sorry about that. Okay, so we have a raw piece of meat on the left, and I tried to be nice about it so I can be pretty objective with this. So there's no bone in it. There's no fat. This is a lean piece of meat, and it's going up against lentils. So it's going up against lentils. As you can see, it's a pound. It starts as a pound. Of course, when you cook it down, what happens with meat when you cook it down? It gets smaller, right? And then we have a cup of lentils on the right. Okay, so with this, let's look at what we get in terms of our RDA, right? Our recommended daily allowance. And so we can see at the top on the left side, your left, total fat, 61 grams. 61 grams, right? Would you, is that pretty high? I don't know. You tell me. You tell me if you want 61 grams of fat, in one sitting, and so people basically would consume 61 grams of, fat. Is it safe to say that people would eat 1 pound raw piece of meat for a meal? When they cook it down, this would be like almost like a half, right? So they're consuming this high dosage of fat just for that protein. If you look down and you see the protein, it's 64 grams. So 64 grams of protein. And so I'm going to skip to the 64 grams of protein before I go back up. And just note that is a lot of protein. What happens to protein that we consume in excess? It is going. It's eventually going to go. It's eventually going to go to fat, but it's also going to go into the toilet. It's going to go into the toilet, and it's going to go. So it's essentially a waste of money, and it's going to be very fattening, right? Right. So here in the U.S. and just around the world, people are consuming too much protein, and so even if you're a fighter, you really shouldn't have significant amounts of protein. The idea of in terms of what protein you want to have 0.4 grams of protein per pound of weight on your body. That's 1 pound of weight in your body for every 0.4 4 grams of protein, right? And so that increases as we become power lifters. So power lifters are going to eat more. They're going to eat maybe zero point 0.8 to 1 gram of protein per pound in their body, and bodybuilding. So this is it. Those group of people, all right. Not essentially, fighters may get up to 0.6. That depends on the fight sport. So I'll go back up to cholesterol. You look at cholesterol, 83% your your cholesterol is done for the day, right? And if you notice that cholesterol actually doesn't have an RDA, there's no recommended daily allowance for cholesterol, and that is because we don't need cholesterol. We don't need to consume cholesterol. Plant-based foods, we'll get to lentils, do not have any cholesterol. And that's because our liver makes cholesterol. We make enough cholesterol. And also, when we need more cholesterol, there is a need for cholesterol. It helps protect our bodies, our nerves specifically, our nerve ending cells. That's its importance, and it's limited to that for the most part. Okay, and of course we see saturated fat well over 100%. So we'll go over to lentils, and we'll start and we'll start actually at the iron. You can see it's pretty comparable to the iron in meat, but then the protein is 18 grams. So 18 grams is a good amount you want to have at a meal. At a meal you might have something else with you might have some carrots, some cut up carrots, steamed carrots, some cabbage with your lentils. Maybe you have lentil soup, and so you would have a little bit more protein, but it wouldn't be so pronounced as it is on the left side. So also our fiber. The interesting thing is there's no cholesterol in lentils. However, there is a significant amount of fiber, that would be saving anybody who eats meat. So say you're trying to get meat out of your system. Well, you might want to eat some fiber from the lentils, and it's ironic that meat doesn't have it. Of course, meat doesn't have any fiber, and it can you can't extract the cholesterol. So that's the importance. One of the huge importances of fiber is that it helps extract the cholesterol out of your system. Okay, all right. So, and of course, there's no fat. There's very little fat, rather. Next slide, please. All right. Okay. All right. I assume we're at the next slide. Okay. Some folks are working out.
That's correct.
All right. Okay. So, very important in terms of exercises, and I didn't really want to stay too long on this. I just wanted to kind of differentiate between kind of my regimen and muscle building, because I think that even though some folks are doing different fight sports than I am, I'm sure some of the muscle building activities or cardio activities are very much the same. I believe cardio is necessary every time. I mean, I've walked into some gyms where there are some fighters who don't like to run. They don't like to run, which is interesting. They feel they can get all their cardio inside of the ring or inside of the cage, and so during their sparring, which is kind of odd. I mean, some people do survive, but those same fighters, I've heard that their cardio breaks down. Their cardio will break down, and I've had that. The times that I've had that issue happen with me. That was just, just poor training. When you're doing when you have poor training, right? Maybe you have to for yourself. Maybe you too many family obligations. Too much work was going on. Maybe you couldn't connect with your coach or whatever the case may be. But I would say that running it goes hand in hand with water. So I look at water, and help me. This is the discussion. So water, I look at water as being something that helps you gain weight and also help you lose weight. Are we on the same page with that? Okay. And so fitness comes into play. I think it's probably one of the most fundamental ways to understand how water and fitness and nutrition work is that when I have water, in my system, and I'm running, I'm able to flush a lot of my toxins out of my body during my run, right? Or I can have sodium in my system, right? And then I can drink water, and then what's going to happen when I have a certain amount of sodium in my system? I'm going to retain water, right? I'm going to retain more water, and so I'm going to be increasing my weight. So that is going to be that's going to be helpful to a number of things, helping my nutrients, get from one place to another, not having my body stagnant in terms of metabolism. So very important. So cardio being key. I like to do iron weight, right? So my strength training has a lot of iron, which might be different for a lot of fighters. I really come from a bodybuilding background. I really started doing a lot of bodybuilding. However, I will say that it can be very costly. It can be very costly because you will have your joints will be aching. Because I love the weights. I really love the weights, and it's addictive, because why? Because you pump up so much faster, you grow so much faster muscle. But I would say calisthenic body weight exercises is going to be more of your friend. It's going to be more gentle on your body. It might not help you build muscle as fast, but it's going to help you build muscle, and it is going to be consistent. And also, it's very convenient. I can get right on the floor and do push-ups, right? Or I can find an apparatus to do tricep dips on, or do pull-ups, these different body weight exercises. And so that's always been key. And so I've always gone back and forth. But generally, I've always had to stop lifting weights when I felt like it was too much on my shoulder. Doing a lot of boxing and even in MMA, I've had one fight. I had one fight that I couldn't make, and of course, you heard. I mean, my promoter, really was pissed. He was pissed because I literally dropped out like the night before. You know how you look when you drop out of a fight the night before, even if you've never done it before. Oh man, that guy. Oh, he must have been scared. He was this and that. That was like I believe that was 2015, like late 2015, September. I was able to make that fight up, and so. It was the first time I actually talked junk to I talk junk to fighters all the time. I might talk, but it was the first time I really got a little disrespectful with it. Because once I pulled out and I apologized for it, they're not really forgiving. So they let me have it on social media. But I had the last word because I beat him. But I talked junk, after I beat him, which is something I would say, even though we're not really about that right now, we shouldn't be talking junk. You know what I mean? But preach it to each its own, right? So, but that was the first time, and I was glad that I was able to make up that fight. I hated that when that ever happened. Somebody would drop out of a fight. You train so much, you know, for so long. It is the hardest thing in the fight game is the training. The person that you fight, that could be a minute, that could be 15 minutes, that can be longer than that, 20 minutes or more, right? When you take out the rest times and so on and so forth, it is the training that is so hard and so difficult. Being away from people, not being able to do this. I love sweets. Maybe you can't tell, but I really love sweets, and people get on me about that. I love cakes and pies. That, you know, vegan cakes and pies. If you haven't tried them, if you haven't tried a vegan cake and a pie, I'm pretty sure they have them there. Some cookies, you know. I think they tend to be healthier, but I have never said that they're healthy. You'll never catch me saying that they're healthy, but I love them. They're delicious. So, but I save some time for questions. You know, from anyone. I definitely want to hear from any of the fighters as well. I thank you for staying to hear me ramble. And I hope that you was able to hear everything. And I wish I was actually able to be there. I'm ready for questions when you are. Unless I answered everything.
I'll bring the microphone over if anyone's got any questions.
Thanks. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, cool.
Everybody should have had microphones.
Yeah. So I came in when you were doing your grain slide, so I might have missed this, but I don't really see a difference or a drop or a big change in my strength. You know, it's hard for me to gauge that, but I do see a difference in my speed or my reaction time if I kind of do like what the opposite of what most people say is if I don't have a lot of fat, I'm holding on to weight, and I find that like my brain is like I'm thinking about cookies and stuff like that. If I just eat avocado rather than a cake, then my brain's somewhere else, and like my reaction, I'm not focused, you know. So I'm seeing if I have like a higher fat diet and I'm not just eating seeds and avocados and all those healthy fats, if I actually have like, you know, a fat with a really high carb, you know, sweets and sugars type thing, that my focus, my endurance, and my reaction time is actually better. And I was wondering if you have any comment on that, or if you see a big difference if you go higher carb or higher fat.
Great question. Well, I definitely, I find that BCAAs, just having our branched chain amino acids and getting our protein into our system is really going to increase our power. That's going to increase our power, and that's also going to increase our speed. But here's the thing with speed. It's always been a lot. It's just in terms of time. Speed is something that is a lot harder to get than power. I just turned 38 October 5th, right? I feel stronger than I've ever, felt at my specific weight, right? I feel really powerful, but I do notice that my speed is not the same, and that's just the thing with speed. It's a little difficult to kind of fine tune with food what you can do with speed, and might have to do a lot of timing and reaction. Is to do a lot of what sport do you do you engage in?
Folk style wrestling and a little bit of jujitsu, but more boxing.
Okay.
So I'm from the U.S. as well.
Okay. And so when you say your speed, is it coming from the ground going up, or
Yes.
is it moving towards your okay?
And
coming
like
from the ground.
reaction time as far as someone's punching you in the face or in the gut, and you clench up, and you need to be thinking of your reaction to that. I find that if I eat something really high carb and I feel kind of maybe jittery because I have so much energy and it's hard to focus it, but if I eat something more high fat or high protein, that I'm just a little heavier, maybe a little slower. I don't know. I'm not sure. Like I understand what you say about power, but when you're talking about I'm not sure if you see a difference as far as what you eat right before a fight. I've never taken pre-workout or any supplements or anything like that either, so I don't know.
So I would try to be as light as I possibly can. I would go into a lot of in terms of going to training and go as light as you possibly can. You're going to be a lot lighter. Some of the exercises that you can actually do is maybe is have some of your teammates throw balls at you. So they'll throw maybe like a bouncy ball, a small bouncy ball about the size of a tennis ball or a handball, and you try to dodge those. So they're throwing it at your head, right? Or they have or they have foam, or they have these long foam pieces, and they actually try to hit you. It's as long as a bat, right? So it's like a bat, and they actually it's in an up and down motion, and you essentially try to dodge it, right? You try to go underneath and back and forth, and you do this over and over and over and over. So this is really your reaction time in terms of your speed. Also, acceleration. Doing so my trainer would have me go and run say let me see say 50 meters, right? So I'll go 50 meters 5 times, and then I'll go 40 meters 5 times, 30 meters 5 times, right? And I would maybe do that twice. I would do that twice in 1 week, right? And see how your speed is and how you actually react in terms of doing that. Another one is getting up from the ground and getting back up is doing burpees. Also trying to do burpees as well, coming from the ground and going back up, and then see. But also before you engage this, make sure you are actually lighter, so you're not putting on. You don't have a lot of fat. Maybe you might want to try this when you detox. The brain is going to remember your best scenarios, right? And after you actually get to your lightest, that's when you should be engaged in these exercises. Bear in mind that nothing is going to work exactly the same as someone else, but this will give you an idea. I can't really tell you specifically because how you're feeling, but I have to take what you're saying, and you would know I think fighters really know their bodies, athletes know their bodies in terms of how they're feeling and reaction to certain foods. But I would really go light. Make sure you get the lightest you possibly can before you engage in these exercises. I hope that helps.
Yes. Thanks.
You're welcome. Thank you for your question. Okay, how much time do we have? I'm available for more questions. Okay, we have about 10 minutes left.
Okay, we've got one more question here.
Hi, just want to ask, as in your previous session, you didn't get to finish about the B12, seeing as you're a trainer, and you said you don't take any B12 supplements. Can you just expand on how you add the B12 diet through all the foods that you eat?
Oh, where do I get my B12?
Yeah.
Okay, so I think I tried. This is coming over from the last class, right?
Yeah, you didn't get to finish it because of time.
Okay. Oh, okay. All right. So, well, let me start here with B12. First, to be honest, I don't think about B12. I get enough greens into my system. I will point out the specific foods where you could get B12, but I really don't. So I'm privileged in that I do not, have to think about the B12 the exact same way, because there was a point, 24 years ago, I did eat meat. And so B12 will be in your system, believe it or not, up to 20 to 30 years in your system. Now, this is case by case. This is not every single person. However, you will be able to retain B12 in your system for long periods of time. But again, you'll get B12 comes from bacteria. Bear in mind, B12 comes from bacteria. So while not washing your hands, eating food is not the best source of B12. You can get it from nori. You can get it from algae, as well. You can get it from various different mushrooms. You can't get it from all mushrooms, but in very small amounts. But the best one, I think I did say this, but probably where I get it the most, specifically, is either nutritional yeast, okay, or yeast. So I don't rely on the nutritional yeast, but I get it from yeast. Why? Because I love to make my own pizzas, right? So when I was a vegetarian, I would eat this pizza, all the time, and get all this dairy into my system that contributed to my bronchitis and so on and so forth. And so, once I became vegan for ethical purposes, I said, listen, I still need to have pizza, right? I didn't have any more dairy, but I made my own pizza, and I realized it is incredibly easy. Flour, yeast, salt, there you have some dough with water. And so I would do my own thing and put some herbs in there. You can put your herbs and your spices. But to be clear, that's where I get my B12. A lot of my B12, I would have to say, comes from yeast. But I would put those herbs in there, and I would also add some vegan butter as well. Maybe Earth Balance. Do they have Earth Balance in London? Yes. Earth Balance there? Oh, okay, awesome. So Earth Balance is getting everywhere. Also, it's in Follow Your Heart, and if I didn't have butter, I can use different variations of oil. I would also go and use avocado as well. Even if I didn't have avocado oil, I would still just use avocado, because what you really need is a great emulsifier, really. I hope that I answered your question this time. At least I hope it feels like it's answered, okay. But I rely heavily on yeast. You could get 0.5 grams of yeast in its usual dosages, which would be how much would that usually be? About a third to a half a cup, and when trying to make a pizza. So that would be like a large pie. Okay. Was that our last question, or? No,
we're going to have to wrap it up there. Omowale, thank you very much. I think if everyone give him a round of applause.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you. Wish I could have been there with you. Have a great fest.
Thanks. Chat soon.